Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Natalie Turton, Marketing Assistant here at Meetup, and today we'll be discussing how to stick to your New Year's intentions with Tansy Rodgers. She's a Meetup organizer of Women's Wellness, How to Eat, Move, and Think Happier, as well as the founder of BU Complete Body Energy Unity Complete Health Coaching. So in this workshop, you'll learn the basics that most people overlook when intention setting. How to overcome personal obstacles and make incremental progress toward the specific intentions you're trying to achieve. And so with all that in mind, we'll take a look at the event guidelines. So this event will be recorded, but you will not appear in the video. So along the same lines, your audio will be muted during the event, so we can't hear or see you. If you have questions, feel free to put that in the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen, not the chat. And speaking of the chat, we encourage everybody to have conversation, but also focus on the event. And if you do engage in the chat, please be mindful and respectful of others. And then lastly, for closed captioning, we have that available as an option, and to turn it on, you can click on the live transcription icon at the bottom of your screen and select your preference. So looking at the agenda, there'll be a brief introduction with Tansy, and then she'll dive right into the live demo, and then at the end, we'll do Q&A. So as I mentioned earlier, submit your questions with Q&A. So with that, I'll hand it off to Tansy.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here today. I'm super excited to be talking to such a big group here on Meetup. Like Natalie had said, I do have my own Meetup that I run, and it is this group of absolutely amazing women where we talk all things health and wellness. And it's kind of interesting how I even got it started in the first place, which I will tell you about in 1 second, but I'm going to back up just a little bit. So why did I even decide to do anything in regards to goals and intentions? And why do I speak so freely and proudly about mindset and brain rewiring work in my health and wellness practice? I'm going to tell you. So first of all, what I have found in the work that I do in really any health and wellness is that making true habit change and being consistent with that habit change really takes a lot more than just focusing on the practical steps, the nutrition, the fitness, all of those things that you're supposed to be doing. It goes so far beyond that. There's a reason that the health and wellness world is a booming industry. And that is really because of the level of commitment, mindset work, and brain rewiring that needs to happen in order for real change to happen. So in my work, I am a functional nutritional therapy practitioner. I'm a personal trainer, a health and lifestyle coach. I am a physical therapist assistant. I love all things health and wellness. But one of the things that I found consistently over and over and over again was the fact that people struggled to stick to the things that they said that they wanted to do because there was obstacles in their way that were holding them back. And what I learned was that these obstacles and mindset changes absolutely had to happen in order for there to be movement forward, for them to finally start to see the results that they wanted, not just for the short term, but for the long term as well. That was key. So let's fast forward to Meetup. My mom and I were sitting and talking, and I would talk about this stuff all the time. And she finally said to me, why don't you start a Meetup so that you can influence more people? And I was like, yeah, okay. Now she was on a Meetup at that point, so I knew that there was part of a selfish reason. Like she just really wanted to have a place to go to and like cool people to hang out with, right? But I thought, maybe this might be something that could be possible. So I let it percolate in my brain for about a year to a year and a half until finally I pulled the trigger and I decided, yeah, I'm going to start this group. And let me tell you something. From the onset of starting the group, I could feel the change and some kind of magical energy that was behind it. Because what I started to notice as I started to emphasize that we need to work on the mindset, the brain rewiring, the back end of everything, along with the positive changes in our health and wellness as we move forward, these ladies started to feel and see some different changes that were occurring. And now we talk so much about why that's important and how to put that into practice when you're trying to change any kind of aspect of your health and wellness. But it doesn't just go right there, right? Any kind of habit change needs to come with some kind of back end. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because I think that there's a lot of key pieces, 7 of them actually, that really get overlooked when it comes to making real change. Folks, here's the thing. You can have all the willpower in the world, but if your willpower is not backed up with the strong foundation, your willpower house is going to crumble, period. I mean, willpower is amazing for the short-term burst that you need and to help get you over that hump. But when it comes to sticking with intentions and making the long-term changes, you have to build the strong foundation and work on that mindset piece and that brain rewiring piece in order for it to be truly effective. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I encourage you, as Natalie said, make sure that you ask questions and comment in the chat and have the dialogue with each other. I will be giving you prompts along the way. But we're going to start. I'm going to start with sharing my screen because I got some slides for you. All right. So this is all about keeping your New Year's intentions. I'm curious, in the chat, answer yes or no. Does life feel like it gets in the way of you being able to make your intentions sticky? Do you feel like you have the greatest intention and then all of a sudden life happens and it all flies away? I know for me, that was absolutely true until I started to discover a few key pieces that had to happen in order to make my goals, my intentions sticky. So today we're going to learn the 7 key things that you need to do to make that happen, or at least to get you started. You're going to learn the number 1 thing that most people forget when setting intentions, and that can actually quickly lead you into making them totally unsticky. And we're going to also talk about some action steps. So this is interactive. As we go through, and I'll prompt you, but as you go through here, I want you to start to think about what is one goal or one intention that maybe you've been struggling with, or something that you would like to try to work through, and just keep that in the back of your head, because as we go through, I'm going to have you reference that and work with that. Make sure you have a pen, paper, maybe your computer that you can type some notes. All right. So before you can actually make your intentions sticky and moving forward, you need to have that pre-step. And that pre-step is to create a solid plan. Now, this is pretty well known. That's why people make New Year's goals or any kind of goals. They write them down. Maybe, they make a vision board or, something. But you need to create some sort of a plan to at least have an idea of where you're going. And ultimately, you want to write that down and you want to refer to it often. Out of sight, out of mind is really common when it comes to goals, especially when you're trying to formulate new habits. So make sure that you have it written down, you're referring to it often, you're putting it out there, you're seeing it in your face every single day until things start to become a little bit more automatic. Plus, when you have a plan, it makes it super easy, and a detailed plan, when possible, makes it feel like a walk in a park. It makes it super doable to implement when you know all of the details, everything you need to hash out. Because sometimes, as you're going to see here, sometimes obstacles pop up that you might not have planned for. And having a little bit of a plan to help move through is going to help you. All right, let's get into the juicy details. We're going to start with step number 1. Most people don't do this. And this is typically where most people fail in committing to and sticking to their goals. We need to know what your core values are. Your core values are those non-negotiables. Those are the parts of life that fire you up and bring you joy and happiness, that feel like you're totally in alignment in your heart. When you know your core values and you can create dreams that revolve around those core values, life, it starts to become like a honey sweet, and your dreams get super sticky because they just feel in alignment. You want to do them. And when you can learn to live in your core values, you feel less depleted, you feel less stressed, you feel like you're more likely to be motivated to stay on your goal bandwagon for that longer ride. Like, it lasts longer. So let me give you an example. If your goal is to get rid of eating those cookies late at night as you're sitting on the couch next to your spouse while you're watching TV, but you can't seem to do it for some reason, like you constantly call, or those cookies are constantly calling at you, and your spouse is like, here, let's share this dessert together. If one of your core values is to spend that intimate time with your spouse and to enjoy those moments together, I don't care how much willpower you have, you most likely at some point are going to give into that bag of cookies or that dessert or that treat as you and your spouse are sitting there enjoying them together watching TV, because that is a core value for you, for your spouse and yourself to connect on that level. That's how you guys are connecting at that point, right? So knowing what those core values are helps you to get your goals to be sticky, but they also help you define where maybe some of your obstacles lay so you can navigate around them and make it work for you. So here's where we're going to start to put the rubber to the road. I want you to take just a few moments. I'm going to give you one moment. Now, let me also say here, for all of these action steps, just because we're shorter on time and it's not a full hour to an hour and a half workshop, I'm going to give you just a few moments to write and jot some ideas down, but I want you to come back to all of these and really sit with them for a little bit longer and take extra time to brainstorm and think, okay? So let's start with the first step, action step. I want you to start creating a list of 3 to 5 core values and see how you can start to set some visions to enhance each of them. So let's just start by writing 3 to 5 core values of yours down. So for example, that could be like, a core value for yours could be you like adventure and travel, or you need to have adventure and travel in your life, or you are really tied to health and wellness, or maybe it's relationships, maybe it's your friends and your family, or maybe it is financial freedom. So I want you to come up with 3 to 5 core values and pop them in the chat if you feel called to do so. Share what some of those core values are with each other. Just taking a moment here and jotting a few ideas down. Remember, these core values can be very basic, like spending more times with friends and family. Or it could be something more detailed, like financial freedom to buy the home that I want or to travel anywhere that I want to travel. So get as detailed or as broad as you need to be, whatever feels right and feels in alignment for you. All right. So like I said, you can always come back to this and expand, but I'm going to keep moving forward to make sure we can stay on time. So that is step number one, making sure that you are aligning or at least knowing what your core values are to get you started. Step number two, we need to start creating rituals. And I'm not talking about routines per se, because routines can be super boring. I'm talking about rituals, rituals that create a flow. This is the foundation of any kind of habit formation. We need to create a ritual of flow so that we are bringing more excellence to the actual intention or goal that you are trying to implement. This is going to be something that you will tie onto something you're already doing. So for example, if you want to start a journaling practice in the morning as part of your morning routine, but you never can seem to feel like you actually set enough time ahead to do that, then part of setting up a ritual could be getting into a flow of, I wake up, I grab my cup of coffee or tea, I sit down and I journal for 5 minutes to start, and then I go into a meditation or a reading, right? So somehow finding a flow of activity that you already do and taking that new habit and bringing it into the flow, placing it there so that it makes sense that you can move on and add it in seamlessly. Not only will this ritual continue to respect the things that you're already doing, but it also respects you because it helps to take the guesswork out of trying to figure out yet another place or another space to get another habit in. A lot of times when it comes to trying to stick to an intention or a goal, a lot of times of why it feels so clunky is because we haven't created space for it, and we don't know where we can create space because we're either really busy or it just doesn't make sense in our life. But when we can tie it into something we're already doing, it makes it so much easier to just keep moving through. So here's why I want you to reference that question I had for you in the very beginning. That question was picking one thing that you are either trying to implement, that you are trying to stick to, that maybe has been a little challenging or you're not quite sure how to move through it. Or maybe it's one of those things where you have great intentions, but it easily falls by the wayside, okay? I want you to pick that topic or that intention, and I want you to come up with a ritual that can help to bring more success and habit formation to that intention. So for example, if you want to start to eat healthier, maybe eating a healthier lunch, taking lunch to work, you can pack your lunch at night, focusing on the foods and the nutrients that you're going to need to honor your body the next day, and have that ready so that in the morning, you don't have to hurry and try to get it done. You already put it in. You made dinner, you keep as soon as you're done making dinner, you clean up the dishes and then you go right into packing your lunch. That's adding it in as a ritual. So take a minute or so here, and I want you to think about how can you implement that intention into something you're already doing to create a ritual flow. And again, as always, I love having this super interactive. So if you feel called to do so, type it in the chat. Type in maybe what you're working through. Type maybe, what kind of ritual you want to do. How is it going to help, or where can you put it in that it's going to help you? Remember, every time that we share some of this, it helps to spark a thought for somebody else that maybe is struggling with the same intention, goal, or obstacle that you're struggling with right now. All right, let's move on to step number 3. Oh man, in my coaching, we talk all about boundaries. And boundaries is one of those things that I talk so heavily and so freely about because I was a boundary breaking machine for the majority of my life. I know how nothing gets done when your boundaries are constantly being crossed. Why are they so important? Well, here's the thing. So most of us actually think that we set strong boundaries, but most of us live in a very low boundary world. And most of us can set boundaries that will reflect around helping somebody else, that we can stick to that. But when it comes to setting boundaries for ourselves, it's really easy for us to let those boundaries fall by the wayside and let our goals, intentions, and all of those pieces that are important to us just kind of fizzle away. So here's where core values really plays a big piece, and same with setting your rituals. So knowing your core values and setting your rituals are events that actually they help you to stay on track. But if something continuously is pulling you away from them, then they're not going to do too much for you. You have to set some boundaries that are going to help you to better align to the core value and the ritual that you're setting. Now, listen, I know that life happens, schedules change. That's not what I'm talking about. Those things are totally inevitable, but they're not constant. We're talking about the things that become constant because you allow them to be. And we're also talking about those things or those people or those environmental influences that easily can sway us and pull us away from the long-term vision and picture, right? So stating and enforcing those clear boundaries are going to be key to keeping you on track. So let's talk about an action step. I want you to sit right now and take a moment or two and think about what kind of boundaries right now are pulling you away from sticking to the goal, the intention that you have written down that you're working through today. What kind of boundaries do you need to set? Who do you need to set the boundaries with? What kind of environmental changes or changes in your immediate surroundings do you need to make to bring you closer to sticking to those boundaries? So, for example, if you want to read more before bedtime, then an appropriate boundary might be to turn off your phone, your text messages, or incoming updates and let everyone you know that you will not respond after a certain time at night. This helps to honor yourself and your needs, and you start to watch your dreams begin to flourish. One little step at a time is how you make forward movement in anything you do, but creating the boundaries to allow that to happen need to be put into place in order for those steps to be able to clear so you can move forward and take them. So take about a minute or so and just jot down some ideas. Where do you need to set your boundaries more? With who? With what? And how do you need to do it? Again, if you feel called to do so, please type in the chat and share with everybody, what kind of boundaries do you need to do? Are you a boundary breaker, or are you pretty strong and solid in your boundary making and sticking to? All right, let's move on to step 4. So step 4, talking to yourself. It's not just about talking to yourself, it is how you talk to yourself. This is where the mindset and the brain rewiring come into play, and why mantras are so super powerful. Mentally and emotionally, we are so tied to the things we think, to the things we speak, because what those two things do specifically is they create an energy within us. They create a story or a belief. And that story, belief, energy that is created will dictate your behavior and how you move forward. So if you're constantly telling yourself, I am no good at losing weight, I can't seem to get to the gym, I am not good at exercising, there is no way I can push away those cookies. If that's the kind of things that you are telling yourself, then guess what? You're not going to push them away, and you're not going to stick to your intentions very easily, because you've already set up in your mind through words and the thoughts that it's not going to happen. So we need to start to change that around. And that's where positive mantras really come in and can be super powerful. But it's not just about saying them, it goes deeper than that. See, positive mantras can help to shift your mindset instantly. They help to bring more focus, they help to bring more clarity, but they also help to silence that little inner voice that sparks a piece of doubt within your mind, which will start to increase the emotional response and push away the rational thinking. So, how do you actually set up positive mantras that are powerful and they work? I'm going to show you in the action step. So, here's where it needs to be really precise. It's not just about saying the things to yourself and creating that mantra. It's about making it fun and exciting. It's about feeling it and starting to allow yourself to believe that it's possible. So, for example, my willpower is strong, or I take care of myself and I'm worth it, or I can't believe how confident, vibrant, and empowered I am, or I can't believe how much of a badass I am that I just pushed those cookies away and they did not take power over me this time. Right? So it's about the excitement and the feel and the spark that it creates, because that's where it comes to making the real change in your mindset and in your belief pattern. So here's what I want you to take 1 minute to do. You can come back to this because I want you to create an actual 3 to 5 paragraph statement. All right. I want you to create a 3 to 5 sentences, or I want you to create 3 to 5 sentences that you're going to repeat out loud every day, 10 times a day for the next 3 months. You heard me right. And if your mantra becomes boring and you need to change it up, that's totally fine. You can change it up. But I want you to start with 3 to 5 sentences that you are going to say to yourself out loud every single day. Start with at 1 week at a time, start with 1 day at a time, but try to make it consistent. All right? 1 minute here to start creating your paragraph and your positive mantras. Feel free to share any of those positive mantras in the chat box. As you're writing, I'm just going to add this on here. Your positive mantras don't have to just be statements. They can be questions like, I can't believe that XYZ. They can be exclamations like, oh my God, I can't believe that I just XYZ. Okay. Make them feel in alignment here because it'll feel more in alignment up here. All right, I know the brain is flowing right now, but we're gonna keep moving on. Step number 5, pulling the trigger word. All right, my friends, this is where the real magic happens because we're starting step 5 and 6, well, actually 4, I guess too. 4, 5, and 6 especially are starting the mindset brain rewiring change. This is critical for sticking to intentions. So step 5 is all about pulling the trigger word. Trigger words are a fun little tool to help rein your runaway thoughts in and recenter and focus you. So essentially what it is an interruption in the thought train getting off the tracks. They can also get your mindset recentered around success and possibly becoming more of a reality. You have to recite your trigger word and say it with passion for trigger words to be effective. So what I mean by this is basically an interruption in your thought process. Your brain patterning, the neural pathways in your brain that get cemented deeper and deeper and deeper every time that you behave in a certain way or repeat a certain act. Those neural pathways need to be interrupted in order for you to start to get off of them and make new tracks of positive change. Neural pathways are like the grooves on a record. The deeper or the more that you play it over and over, the deeper that groove gets. So think of it in that sense. We need to run new tracks in the brain to be able to start to make, implement, and stick to new habit formation. So these trigger words are a great way for you to jump the tracks onto a new one, right? So for example, actually we'll go over here because I have an example right here for you. If your goal is to work out 3 mornings a week before work, a trigger word example could be dedicated. So for example, if you are laying in bed and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to get out of bed right now and go do this workout that I told myself I'm going to do. I'm so tired. All I want to do is just sleep. This is not what I feel like doing right now. That's where the trigger word starts to come into play. As soon as you start to become aware and notice that your old patterning is starting to come in, that's where whatever your trigger word is, you can say, just go, or dedicated, or strength, or empowerment. Anything to just change it around. So I want you to pick a trigger word or phrase that feels motivating and powerful in conjunction with the intention that you're working through today. Type them in the chat box What is your power word? What's your trigger word going to be for you that's going to help you to stop yourself in track and move on? All right, trigger words go awesome with step number 6. Step number 6 is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. This is actually right out of the thought process that Mel Robbins had in her 5-second book. If you have read that, the 5-second rule, if you've read that, this is actually where this has come from, and I have found it to be so effective. So the mind can play all kinds of crazy little tricks on you when you're trying to change habits. Sometimes you just need a simple mental interruption to take your focus away from the fear or the negative thoughts. The trigger word is a great way to do that, but sometimes you even need to step back a little bit and do a countdown or some kind of specific change that is going to get you to that next step of pulling the trigger word. So the simple tip of counting from 5 to 1 and then saying go or replacing go with your trigger word is a mental interruption that's just enough time to allow action to replace fear. So I'm going to go back to that example of when you're laying in bed and you don't feel like getting out of bed to do a workout or to go meditate or whatever your goal is. Maybe it's just to get out of bed. But if you're laying in bed and you're like, man, I don't want to do this, and you're getting into that place and all those negative thoughts are happening and you're becoming aware of that, this is where you can go, take a deep breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, dedicated. Kick your legs up and you sit on the side of your bed. Remember how I talked about rituals? This is part of that ritual. So going from not feeling like doing it into the phase of actually getting to and sticking to that intention, maybe part of that ritual that you need to put into place is, in this example, pushing yourself and just swinging those legs over the bed. It sounds so silly, but sometimes we need to bring it down that minute in your action steps to stick to what you want to do. So I'm curious, how can you use this step? And what word are you going to use? Take a few moments here, just about a minute or so, and jot down how you can use this step with the current intention that you are working through. And what word are you going to use after the 1? All right, and we're gonna move on and finish up with the last step. The last step is reevaluating. And this one often gets overlooked because here's the deal. The reality is sometimes when you get into the intention and you get into this whole process, you might find that you really actually don't care about what you thought you cared about. Or you might find that it shifts in some sort of way. Sometimes you have to just step back and really reevaluate what you're working on and see if it's working for you. It might not actually be working for you the way that you pictured it was going to work. It's easy to stick with something that you think that you really wanted to do or what somebody else wanted you to do, just to discover that it doesn't even motivate you anymore. Maybe it never did, and that's totally okay. What's really important to move forward in your goals and your intentions is to Figure out how you're spending your life working towards making yourself feel fulfilled and excited and walking on your higher purpose. It's about what serves you. So maybe what you thought was going to serve you isn't actually going to serve you, and that's okay. What do you need to do to make that happen? And sometimes reevaluating has to be done regularly because it's all about the fine tuning. It's not about ready, aim, fire. It's about ready, fire, aim. Set your intention or your goal. Take the action steps by setting these other things up in advance, and then coming back and aiming in and figuring out, what do I need to reevaluate? What do I need to do differently? What needs to change to make this better? Okay. Now, for this action step, I'm not going to actually give you really any time to work on this part just because you may not even be here yet, and that's totally fine. But I just want to make sure that we are always coming back and reevaluating what we're doing and making sure that we're not just doing something because we thought that we wanted it or that somebody else wanted us to, or because somebody's telling us that it's important, but that is really what we want as a person, as an individual, as a totally unique, amazing, incredible human being. Now, here's the key, and I'm going to wrap up with this. Here's the key. We need to have our A team, our inner circle. Our A team is that group of people that you incorporate in your life that is there to back you up. It's those people that when the going gets tough, you know you can turn to these people for support, encouragement, and the help to move forward in a powerful way. But here's the thing, it needs to be a support group or a group of people that is bringing the good vibes and only the good vibes. Because unfortunately, some people that we think are great support systems, they aren't necessarily the best for what we're trying to attend to. So your spouse may be amazing, but if your spouse is not liking an intention that you're trying to create, or if your best friend is a voice in your ear that is constantly doubting, or if a family member is constantly saying something to you that makes you reevaluate if what you are trying to do is really what you should be doing, then maybe they are not part of that inner circle. Not saying that they can't be around and be supportive, that's not what I'm saying. It just may not be that they are not on that inner circle and helping you to move forward in a super powerful way. So I want you, not right now, I want you to come back to this, again, just because of time, but I want you to sit and think about who is on that inner circle and who are those people that you're really going to go to for accountability, support, especially when the going gets tough, because my friends, the going is going to get tough, and having that support is going to be critical. Where can you find me? You can find me at a couple different places where I'm most active. My website, tansyrodgers.com. You can do a screenshot of this. I know you're going to get a recording, but you can also do a screenshot if you would like to save all this information. But you can find me at tansyrogers.com. It's where my website is. That is my website. It's where my blog is. I have a few recipes over there. Or you can visit me over on Instagram, where Instagram I am the most active. So over at Instagram at Tansy Rodgers Wellness. You can also come to my meetup. It is a women's wellness meetup though. So that is a women's group specifically. Sorry guys, but you can come over to the women's wellness group. And then I also have a Facebook group that is called Wildflowers Grow. You can come over there and visit me and request to be in that group as well. If you want to reach out, you can go to my website and I have contact info right there that you can reach out to me and connect in at any time.
Great. Thank you so much, Tansy, for sharing. We'll dive into Q&A now. And a reminder for everybody, if you have questions, submit them in the Q&A. So we have a question from Louise who says, I will try that countdown step when I get caught up in social media. Could that work?
Oh my gosh, 100%. 100%. Because a lot of times with social media gets us so drawn. Social media is made to be super engaging, and it's made to draw us away and to really connect in. I mean, it's literally made that way. So if you find yourself getting caught up in it and it's not serving you and it's holding you away from the things you really want to do, then absolutely you can do that.
Great. We also have a question from Tamara who asks, how many things can you tackle at the same time?
Great question. I would actually advise starting with just 1 to 3 goals, depending on what your priorities are. So remember, it's about the priority of it. So if there is 1 or 2 things that are really more priority over other things, start there and focus on those things. But I wouldn't go much more than 3 goals at a time, just because you're going to be pulled in so many directions that it's going to make it really hard to make it sticky.
That makes sense. We have a question from Belinda who asks, can you have multiple trigger words?
Absolutely. So the multiple trigger words are so great when it comes to being super specific. Pick a different word for different situations that resonates and makes it feel like it's more powerful for you.
Great. Another question from Trish who asks, how do I find an inner circle if I don't have one?
That is such a great question. So for the inner circle, I'm curious, is this because you don't have people in your immediate environment? Or is it you're just not sure who to pick? That there's a difference there. If I don't know if you can answer right away or not, but I can just give you a little insight on each of those. So if it's because you don't have people in your immediate environment, you could go onto some online groups or find some support groups that might be able to help you. Or you can even go online and create your own group. However, if you feel like you're not sure how to actually pick those people, I would say when you're interacting with people, ask yourself, does this person make me feel safe? Does this person light me up and give me energy? Do I feel like they have my best intentions? If you can answer yes to those questions, then those are the people for your inner circle. But if you find that those people are constantly coming to you and maybe being a negative voice in the background, or making comments that aren't very serving to you, or constantly trying to pull you away, maybe throwing some of those, hey, I know you're going to work out, but why don't you come out to happy hour with us? Right? Those people may not be the best people to be in your inner circle.
Got it. Thank you for that response.
Yeah.
We have another question from Lisa London who asks, do you do one-on-one coaching or do you have a coaching group?
I do both. So I do one-on-one work. That one-on-one program is called Break Your Plateau, but I also do group coaching, and my group coaching is it's called the Gut Revitalize program. It's specifically around gut work and trying to understand how to tackle it nutritionally, physically, mindset, brain rewiring, stress management, lifestyle, all of that kind of stuff. So it will tackle all of those, but that program enrollment is actually open and closing March 9th. So if you're interested, reach out to me because I would love to talk to you more about it.
Great. We have a question from Anonymous who asks, any additional suggestions for trigger words?
Okay. Any other ideas? Let's see. Remember, it doesn't have to be just a goal. It can also be a phrase. So that's why just do it, Nikes, right? Just do it is so powerful because it's like this powerful statement. So you can also use a phrase, but other ideas, let's see. Um, it's kind of dependent. This is hard to answer because it's kind of dependent on the situation, right? So it could be, yes, I got this. Empowered, strong, powerful. Um, um, yeah, I'm really struggling with giving you an answer because it's really dependent on situation.
And what resonates with you specifically, right?
Yeah, and what
Yeah.
resonates, absolutely. So what I would say to find the trigger word that works best for you or the trigger phrase that works best for you is just start jotting down some words or, you know, 2, 3 word phrase and see what resonates the most and what makes you feel excited, what really kind of feels in alignment and makes you want to do something different. That's the key. It needs to make you want to do something different.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have another question from Anonymous, who asks, do you suggest having rewards for completing habits? And if so, what type of reward?
Great question. Yes. So I do think that rewards are very powerful. We as humans love to be able to receive and feel special for what we have done. There's 2 things I want to say to this though. Number 1, the reward should not be something that is going to pull you away from your goal. So for example, if you're trying to lose weight or if you're trying to eat more healthy, then your reward should not be food related. It should be something that's going to support you on your journey forward. The other piece of this, though, is that if you find that rewards do not work for you, if you find that's not something that motivates you in the first place, then I wouldn't even worry about it. But I do think that rewards are absolutely very powerful when it comes to helping you to move forward. So, for example, I have this one client who she loves buying books on Amazon, like that's her thing. So every time that she sticks to what she says that she's going to do, she's puts like a little gold coin or something into a little piggy bank. And when she gets so many, that equates to a certain amount of money that she then puts towards buying one of her favorite books on her Amazon list.
Cool. Yeah, having like concrete examples too is helpful.
Yeah.
Great. We have another question from Jennifer, who asks, do you think that mental health and reaching your goals are tied together? I struggle with depression and getting myself to accomplish my goals is so much harder.
Jennifer, yes, 100%, hands down, yes. Here's why. The mental health place that we're in dictates the belief system that we have about ourselves and about our abilities to accomplish what we want to accomplish. So if you're at a place right now, and I'm not saying this can't change. I mean, there's a lot of forward movement and things that you can do to improve that situation. But it's all about the energy that you bring. So if you start making some of those changes and you start to have a better belief in the fact that you are able to achieve a situation or an intention or a goal, automatically you're going to start to change your mental perspective about what's possible. And that can automatically start to change your mental health status or position where you're at that point. They absolutely go hand in hand. And the more that your energy is tied in a place of feeling like, I can't do this, I don't have time to do this, I'm exhausted, I have no more mental space to be able to put any of this in, that's going to pull you away from being able to reach your goal a little quicker or in more of a linear movement. So great question, Jennifer. And yes, that definitely is tied.
Great, thank you for answering that. It's definitely tough. We will transition. I'm going to share my screen. First off, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much to Tansy for her time and sharing your insights with us. Before we go, I do want to share a couple slides. So you can become a meetup organizer and meet your goals alongside people who share your interests. So you can start your own group on Meetup and save 50% on your first subscription. And so you can go to this website here, meetupsavings.com, and get some savings from that. So we also have launched a podcast in this last month with our CEO, David Siegel. So please take a moment to take out your phone and scan the QR code and give it a listen. We have 4 episodes up so far, and we have a new episode coming out next Wednesday. And so you can go to meetuppodcast.com or scan that QR code. And then as a reminder, if you would like to view a recording and a recap of this event, you can head to our Community Matters blog at meetup.com/blog. So in a few days, we'll have this uploaded so you can go back and reference everything that Tansy shared with us and keep working on, keep meeting your intentions and all of that. So thanks again for joining us and stay safe, everyone. Thanks again, Tansy.